So Anne, as a judge, how would you define an expert witness?
An expert knows more about his or her territory than I could ever hope to. So his or her job is to put me in the best possible position to understand what I'm going to have to decide on.
And what's an expert witness report?
Expert report is the first building block in what will be a longer process. So it's the starting point. That's where I'll read not only what the expert's expertise is, but what he or she can tell me about the facts upon which I'm going to have to make a decision.
So this is something you get before you even get into the courtroom?
Exactly, yes.
You will have read that?
I'll have read that before I start.
And what would you like to see in a good expert witness report?
Clarity. I want it to start where it should, take me all the way through and end. I want it to be in plain, clear English. The whole point is to avoid fancy words that come naturally to the expert, but don't necessarily to me, and certainly won't to a jury. So nice and clear, well organised.
So any technical terms explained?
Yes, or not used at all.
And of course, they should be experts. They're paid well to produce this report, and you expect a high quality document.
I expect it to reflect that they are paid experts, so I want it to look professional, numbered, paged, well organised, and all that conspires to help me do my job.
And should it stand alone?
Yes, it should, because I don't want to be faffing about going back from the expert report to another witness statement. I want it to be in one witness statement by the expert.
And of course, the expert has to be right for the actual issues in dispute, the right qualifications and experience. So presumably you look at the CV and what they've done or haven't done. And
certainly do. I'm very interested in the CV because I want to be assured that I am being helped by someone who is actually capable of helping me.
And it's right for the job.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And of course, presumably when you were a mere barrister, you would cross-examine on the CV.
I would. If you want to rattle an expert witness, quite often your starting point is their CV. So if one were an expert, that would be where one would want to be very, very vigilant.
So make sure it's truthful and accurate, because we have seen some that are perhaps not.
Exactly.
And what about issues outside their field?
Don't touch them. You're not there to help by hazarding what's outside your field. And it's much more impressive to a judge to hear a witness say, I'm sorry, I can't help. It's just not my field.
Well, there have been examples where experts have said, the judge has perhaps said, can you just help us here? What would you say to that?
Well, if the judge is asking that, a perfectly sensible answer is, I would very much like to, but I can't, because it is outside my field.
Very good.
The judge will respect the expert even more as a consequence.
I suppose the prime thing is the duty to the court, whichever court, family, criminal, civil, is the duty to...
The primary duty of any expert is to the court, not to a party. And it's quite interesting to think back to when I was at the bar and would be examining and cross-examining experts, leaving aside being a judge and hearing their evidence. I would sometimes say at the end of a cross-examination to an expert, can the jury take it that if you had been called by the other side, your evidence would be completely unchanged?
Nice. And of course, it must be the expert's own words, because some experts have said instructing solicitors would try to perhaps improve the report. Mm-hmm. What would you say if you heard something like that in court?
I'd ask how that had come to happen. And indeed, I probably wouldn't be asking it because the member of the bar who was interested in demoralising the expert would be straight in there. So I probably wouldn't have to deal with it, but I wouldn't want it because it's not the gloss put on it by a solicitor that interests me. It's the expertise of an honest, well-qualified, candid expert that I want.
But it's very difficult for experts because they're a slightly schizophrenic position of being paid by one side, but the duty is to the court. So
it's not schizophrenic, Mark. It's perfectly simple. They are paid by one party or another to come along, but what are they there for? They are not there to advance that party's position. No. They are there to put the decision maker in a more powerful position to be confident.
And what about the methodology used by the expert in coming to the opinion or opinions?
I need to see that in the report because I need to know what it is that they have, what it is they relied on to reach their conclusion.
It's interesting that they now have to sign a declaration of truth, and of course it has to be true, doesn't it?
It has to be something that they believe to be true or do not believe to be false. And if it isn't, they could be in big trouble. People are still perfectly capable of looking up the law of perjury. You don't want to be going down that road. If it isn't true, don't say it.
Now, we said earlier that you would have got the report prior to trial. What would you say if an expert suddenly comes up with something new in the witness box?
Well, once again, it might not be me that would primarily deal with it, because you would expect
Counsel
the opposing party to have their teeth into it immediately. But if I did, first thing to ask myself would be, why is this arising now?
And finally, are there any other advice you would give to an expert witness?
You're an expert there to help. The decision maker will want your help. You're not at war. You're there to help, and your help will be welcomed.
Well, thanks so much for your insights.
Pleasure.
Thank you.